And we're back. Another video. Last time we covered caulking. Before that we covered how to hang this lovely picture that we've got here. This time we're going to be going over how to paint skirting board. If you watched the previous video about how to caulk, I highly recommend caulking before you apply a layer of paint. Caulking before you paint can tend to give it a better finish, especially if you're using gloss paint or satin paint. The rougher sort of finish you get from using caulk doesn't blend in too well with using gloss or satin paint. All we're going to do is clean down our skirting board. I've got my skirting board very dirty. A lot of skirting boards are. Sometimes the paint is faded. Preparation for this, we're just going to need a few things. We're going to need some paint. I'm using our Berger quick dry water-based satin paint. I quite like satin as opposed to gloss. We're using some Pro-Deck 1-inch masking tape. You're going to need some sandpaper. I like to use 120 grit sandpaper. That's because it's not too rough and it's not too smooth. It doesn't completely shred the previous layer of paint down to the bare wood, and it gives your new paint a nice surface to stick to. We're also just going to be using a wet cloth. We're just going to clean all the old gunk off the skirting board. You must make sure your skirting boards are clean and dust free, because you don't want to be painting on top of dust and dirt, because it won't stick very well. So all I'm using, just one of these little dishcloths. Now you could use sugar soap. Sugar soap's also something that's really good, but I know the dirt that I've got on my skirting board. I put it on myself, so I know it's going to come off. We're then going to move on to sanding it down just to allow our paint to stick to it. I don't recommend putting your paint directly on top of your old paint. It's not going to stick very well, and it's probably not going to look very good, especially if you've got some imperfections already on there. And because we're painting and decorating, I want to keep my clothes clean. I don't have a spare change of clothes with me, so I'm going to slip into something a little bit more appropriate for the occasion. And now I'm ready. I've got my overalls on, so let's head down and give our skirting board a little clean, a little bit of a sand, and then we can apply our new paint. So I rambled on for enough at the beginning, so I'm just going to give you a little time lapse of all of the cleaning I did. Just took a wet, warm, soapy sponge to the skirting board. Just went back and forth, and this is the difference. Look at that, it's night and day. So this is dry. I've just cleaned it using the wet dishcloth. I then went back over it with a bit of toilet roll, because why not, and it dried it off nicely. So now we're getting on to the next step of the operation, which is using a bit of 120 grit sandpaper. We're just going to give it a quick key, and I'm absolutely sweltering in this jumpsuit. It is so hot, but I'm not going to take it off because I don't want to wreck my cloth, so it's going to stay on. Back to another time lapse. Just going to keep things simple, not going to drag it out any more than I need to. All you do, just get your 120 grit sandpaper and just keep rubbing it back and forward. Don't need to go too crazy, just give it a nice key. You want to sort of remove any shiny parts of paint that's already on there, and just work it in all the corners, all across the top and all in the little grooves that you've got on your skirting. The sanding's done. We're now just going to get a clean wet cloth, and we're just going to rub all of the old sandpaper dust and residue off of there, and then we're ready to mask up and paint. So I also recommend wearing a mask for health and safety reasons whilst you're doing the sanding, because dust is going to come up. So let's get into it. So we're just giving the skirting boards a little wipe down here, just going back over it with our wet dishcloth. Now for the masking tape. This is crucial. All you need to do is get your masking tape to size. You really want to do as longer pieces as possible, and just get it as close to the skirting board as well. The closer it is to the skirting board, the better finish you're going to have with the paint. And if you find that your masking tape isn't sitting on it right, just do another layer on top. As for the painting, this is the main part, so give your paint a good old shake. Get yourself a little mixer and give it a whiz round and a quick stir, and then load up a little bit on the end of the brush and just start applying it to the skirting board. As you can see, I'm just doing a few big strokes just to get a nice first sort of layer of paint. I'm not doing multiple coats on the skirting board. I thought it only needed one. And then I'm working on the main base, just going back and forward, left and right. It's all the same with skirting, left and right, whether it's a sandpaper or the cleaning step. And then I'm getting my paintbrush and I'm just using the thinner part of it, so across the top, just to do, guess what you could call cutting in, just to make the top of the skirting board look nice and sort of go over where some of the caulk is. And you can see it's a little bit messy, but that's fine. We've got the masking tape, so it's giving us a little protective barrier, and as long as we spread the paint out evenly, it's all good. it looks pretty good, to be honest, and from a distance, look at that. It's nice and shiny, and yeah, excellent. We're just going for something that looks good here. That's the main goal. So in between these cuts, I've been having some
technological difficulties.
Annoyingly, the battery on my phone died, my mic died, my phone got filled up with storage, which is brilliant when you're trying to film a video. So I kind of rushed a little bit, but that's fine, it still turned out okay. One thing about masking tape is if you're happy with the amount of paint you've applied and you don't think you need to make a second coat, get the masking tape off as soon as possible. People tend to leave the masking tape on whilst the paint's drying. What can happen is your paint can stick to the masking tape. As you peel the masking tape off, a load of the paint comes off with it. So this paint is still pretty fresh. It's only been painted for probably under an hour. So we're just gonna go ahead and peel it off. Now I did this a little bit awkwardly because I was trying not to block the camera. Done and painted. So we'll get up close and give it a proper look. And this is the final result. So I was pretty chuffed with it, excluding that one little mark on the wall. Honest mistake, you'll make them. So we're back up top, our skirting board's painted. As with everything, nothing always goes to plan. You can see there's little bits of dust and somehow just a little bit of dirt that got onto the paint during filming. I had a few difficulties go on with my phone and, like I say, some of the recording equipment. So it led me to rush. But that's just what happens in real life. The amount of times you're going to be at home, especially if you've got kids, you're probably going to start decorating and something's going to happen. Someone might break something, you might receive an important call, you might have to put it down, you might get distracted, you might not get the outcome that you want. But on a whole, all of the little pieces that you can do, whether it's caulking, whether it's painting, whether it's hanging a picture, all of these little things can combine together and give you one good result at the end of it. I don't want to fluff about and make out that I'm better at these things than it might seem. But yeah, the paint didn't go perfectly, but it went to a standard that I'm happy with. And when it comes to DIY, you don't have to be a professional, because 99% of the time we're not. We're just doing it because we want to make a few improvements to our home, and that's what this is all about. Keeping it real, keeping the mistakes in, keeping the errors in, and taking pride in our mistakes without getting too philosophical. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, all of the products that have been displayed in the video, such as the paint, the masking tape and the sandpaper, are all for sale on our website. That's www.skills with an SKEELS direct.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for another video.